Hi guys, so maybe you heard that real estate can be a good investment, which is why you want to buy your first home. Well, stop. Don't buy your first home yet because you need to prepare accordingly. Now, this can be one of the biggest investments that you will make in your life. So you can't leave anything to chance, which is why I want to help you avoid those mistakes that can make this big investment into one bad investment decision. So in this video, I just want to share with you how you can buy your first home the right way. So, let's start.
So you really need to get ready to buy your first home. Kailangan to pinaplano ng maayos kasi hindi to basta-basta ginagawa. You could be making either the best investment in terms of returns or the worst investment, meaning malulugi ka, pwedeng maubos pera mo, pwedeng ma-foreclose pa nga yung property. So, which would you rather choose? Having a good investment, maybe the best investment that you will make, or the worst investment? So, let me share with you what can happen if you don't do this properly. So, this happened during Ondoy. So, this particular house, it's a two-story house. So, even if the flood height reached the second floor, I don't think the occupants were in danger because obviously they can still survive at the second floor. Now, to give you perspective, the flood level reached up to this height, the electric wires, and that was around 16 feet high. Okay, so again, for this particular house, they were not in danger because of the floods. Okay, imagine if it was a bungalow. So for this particular house with a flood height of 16 feet, that would mean only the tip of the house would remain not submerged by the flood. And actually, this was our house. This was so traumatizing for us. Our son was actually in this house with his yaya, and me and my wife, we were not here. We were outside and we could not go back to the house because the flood was already too high. Now, with this particular house, we bought even if we only looked at one house. So, we did not have any other options. So, if we did not have a lot of choices, then it's most probably not the best choice. I hope you understand that if you have a lot of options, you can objectively decide which of those options would be the best. But if you only have one option, most probably it's not the best option. And for us, we did not do it because in a way, this was railroaded to us, meaning we were rushed to buy this house. And because of that, we did not get to see what were the other available houses out there. So that alone is one big mistake because you have to check all available houses, and then that's the time you decide so that it's more likely that you are choosing the best possible house for you. Okay? Next, we did not check the market values. We did not check the rental rates. So, what is the significance of this? So, when it comes to market values, we were not aware of how much similar houses were selling for in that particular village. So, we had no idea if this property was priced right or if it was cheap or if it was overpriced. Sadly, it was overpriced. Now, when it comes to rental rates, I discovered later after I purchased this house that the rental rate was not that good. And the reason why I checked was I was hoping that I can rent it out, and with the rental income, I hope that it would be big enough to cover my monthly amortization. So I was thinking maybe there's a chance that I will have positive cash flow or at least break even. But no, my loan payment was 15,200 plus per month. In relation to the rental rate, it's about 10,000, maximum 10,000 per month. So, it's negative cash flow. Lugi pa ako kung gagawin ko yun, which meant this really wasn't a good investment. Bottom line was, I could not sell the property if I wanted to sell it a break-even price, meaning I wanted to sell it at a price equal to for how much I purchased it. So, at least I want to break even if I know that lugi na ako kasi I already paid for some taxes, okay? And I could not recover that. More so, it's impossible for me to sell at a profit kasi nga, it's overpriced. So, ano talaga, lugi kami. This particular house was not a good deal. And the worst part is as mentioned in the earlier slide, talagang nilubog ng baha. And we were not able to consider the flooding history. If only we check, there was already a pattern that around 10 years before, there was already a significant flood. Not as high as Ondoy, but there was already a pattern. And people living there already knew that almost every 10 years, there's a big flood that happens in this particular location. And to sum it all up, we simply ended up with a very bad investment because we were not prepared. We did not do our homework. We did not check if this property was really a good deal. So now you know, maybe this will ensure that you will not make the same mistake. Okay, so going back, again, it can either become your best investment if you do your homework or one of the worst investments that you can make. But maybe some of you are thinking, Jay, wala na namang Ondoy, hindi na siguro magkakaroon ng Ondoy. Or we are smart enough already to avoid those flood-prone areas. But I would like to share with you another example of getting flooded. Pwede kayong malubog, hindi sa tubig baha, pero pwede kayong malubog sa utang. Pwede mangyari yan. If, let's say, if you bought a property way above what you can afford, that can lead to being unable to cope up with the monthly payments. So, pwede kayong malubog kung hindi nyo inanalyze up to how much ba talaga yung pwede nyong monthly payment. I know the banks, their standard practice is your monthly amortization cannot exceed 40% of your gross monthly income. Okay? So, that's a good reference up to how much can you really afford. So, stay within that range. Okay? Next is, because of the monthly payments, you can really get stuck in the rat race. You have no choice but to continue working and working and working until you are fully paid with this loan. Imagine this loan can be 10 years, 20 years, up to 30 years. And if you maxed out your monthly income, you have to continue working and working. And you can get stuck. Now, what can be worse would be if something bad happens. If something will drain your financial capacity, then you can even end up facing foreclosure down the road. So now that's the worst that can happen. Now, enough of the bad. Let's focus on the good when it comes to real estate. There are a lot of reasons to invest in real estate. And one big reason is real estate is such a basic need. Now, who would not want to have a roof over their heads? Lahat ng tao gusto yan. Lahat ng tao kailangan yan. In fact, in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, nandun siya. Pinaka-basic, pinaka-foundation siya. Ayan o, shelter. So, isa yan sa pinaka-importante. Very basic need. And that needs to be addressed first bago ka pa maghangad ng safety, love, belonging, esteem, or self-actualization. Unahin mo muna yung shelter or yung isa yun sa mga physiological needs. And since basic need yan, merong obviously na demand. And yung demand na yan, syempre magi-increase with the increase in population. Here in the Philippines, syempre yung population natin palaki ng palaki. Di common sense lang, the demand will also increase. And supply is obviously limited. As the saying goes, buy land. They're not making it anymore, as mentioned by Mark Twain. Kasi ganun talaga eh. Supply is limited when it comes to real estate. Yes, they can build condos. Yes, they can do some reclamations. But very limited pa rin yun. So, supply of real estate is very limited. Basic economics. Demand is high, supply is low. Ano mangyayari? Tataas ang value. Magi-increase ang price ng real estate. So, that is one big opportunity if you do it properly. Kasi kahit ano pang sabihin mo, if you don't do it properly, bumili ka dun sa binabaha, ay wala rin, di ba? So, you still have to do it the right way, even if real estate has this advantage. And speaking of advantages, marami pang big advantages ang real estate over other forms of investments like paper assets. So let's discuss. Ano ba ang advantage ng real estate versus paper assets? Ano ba yung paper assets? Stocks, mutual funds, and other kinds of paper assets. So in terms of leverage, ano ba yung leverage? Let's say you want to buy a property that's worth 1 million pesos. You don't need 1 million pesos to buy that. Maybe you only give 20% down payment and the rest would be covered by a loan. Now, that's what you call leverage. So, you can buy the whole 1 million worth of property with only the 20% down payment. Now, let's say you want to buy 1 million worth of stocks. Can you loan 80% from from the bank? As far as I know, walang bankong maglo-loan yan for regular people like us. Hindi ginagawa ng bank yun. Bakit? Kasi very risky ang paper assets compared to real estate. Ang real estate, tangible. Andyan lang yan. Hindi nawawala basta-basta. Kahit nga naundoy, andyan pa rin eh. Time heals pagdating sa real estate. Pero sa stocks, pwede mag-zero ang value niyan. Real estate, hindi ganon. For real estate, somehow you have control with making the selling price go up to the level of full market value. Unlike sa stocks, do you have any control? Let's say nakabili kayong stocks tapos bumaba yung price per share. Do you have any way of affecting yung price per share para tumaas ulit or bumalik do sa dati niyang level? Wala. I think the only thing you can do is pray. Pray that the company behind that stock will somehow manage to perform better para tumaas yung stock. Pwedeng ganon. Yun lang. Yun lang ang control mo. Actually, yun ang example na wala kang control sa stocks. Unlike sa real estate, ano pwede mong gawin? You can renovate. You can paint para yung selling price tumaas at least up to the level of full market value. Ang example ko, if you buy at below market value na kasi yung property mukha siyang dilapidated, needs repairs, then you have control of the property. You can influence the price by fixing it, renovating it, even just painting it para tumaas yung selling price niya up to full market value. I know this is possible because we have done this several times. How about income replacement? Yan yung, if you have enough properties that are generating rental income, it can come to a point that you don't have to work. Pwede na niyang i-replace yung monthly income mo from your work. Yung salary mo, pwede na niyang ma-replace if you have enough rental properties. Now, sa stocks, can stocks do that? I don't think so. Or at the very least, you need millions and millions and millions worth of stocks para lang magkaroon ng ganun. Kasi for stocks to have something similar to rental income, it would be the dividends, cash dividends. And for those dividends to be significant enough, you need tens of millions of stocks. So compare sa real estate, if one property that is worth 1 million can produce rental income, let's say, sige, sabihin na natin 5,000 ang rental ng isang property na worth 1 million. You need 50,000 pesos per month para buhay ka na. So, how much rental properties do you need? O di 10 times ng 1 million. So, you only need 10 million worth of rental properties para magkaroon ka ng income replacement. And as I mentioned earlier, you have leverage. So, you don't need the whole 10 million. Maybe you can have 80% of that financed by a bank loan, o di you only need 2 million. 2 million lang, you can end up with 10 million worth of properties generating 50,000 in monthly rental income. O yun, buhay ka na. Yun ang example ng income replacement with real estate. Next, how about liquidity? Ayan, admittedly, talo ang real estate. Because with real estate, it's not that liquid. It takes more time to sell. So, if you want to sell, it takes at least 3 to 6 months. Of course, there's a way to make it faster. You can sell a little below market value. But the average is 3 to 6 months. Unlike kung stocks, basta if you are selling at a price indicated dun sa stock market, di mabebenta mo siya kaagad. On that very day, on that very minute pa nga kung online mo gagawin, mabebenta mo siya kaagad. So, very liquid ang stocks, pati bonds, mutual funds. So, in that sense, talo real estate compared sa paper assets. Now, for me, the key is to diversify. Meaning, yung true diversification, you hold on to different asset classes. In this case, you hold on to real estate and you hold on to stocks. So kami ganun. We have real estate, we have stock. Para whatever happens, hindi naman yan sabay na bumabagsak, hindi ka ganun kaapektado. Yun ang diversification. Now, what are the ways for you to make money with real estate? Now, let me discuss this quickly. Buy and sell, also referred to as flipping. You buy, renovate, and sell for a profit. How about rentals? Na-mention ko na kanina. You buy, keep the property, rent it out, and you earn rental income monthly. Ganon. It's as simple as that on how you can make money through real estate. How about the other ways? The other, I refer to them as derivatives. So, how about rent-to-own? Rent-to-own for me, it's simply long-term buy and sell. Meaning, imbis na immediately iba-buy and sell mo na makukuha mo lahat, yung pagbili sa'yo, it's through several years worth of monthly installments. And kaya siya tinawag na rent-to-own, it's not really rent, it's already a purchase, Pero the monthly payments would be comparable to just paying the rent. Kaya tawag nila rent to own. How about yung sinasabing build and sell? To, mas malaki ang potential income nito. Pero build and sell is really like buy and sell. The only difference is nadagdagan ng construction. Instead of just purely renovation sa buy and sell, kasi buy, renovate, sell, yung flipping na na-mention ko kanina. Pag build and sell, you buy and then construct, yun yung pag-build. And then, that's the time you sell. So, derivative lang siya ng buy and sell. Next is, how about Airbnb? Pag Airbnb, it's really like rentals na short term. And because it's short term, they can actually charge more. And because of that, Airbnb is really a good way of earning money through real estate. Because as compared to rentals na long term, yung Airbnb mas malaki ang potential mong pwedeng kitain. For example, you can earn, let's say, just a week's worth of occupancy. Pwede na yun na equal yung monthly rent na for long term na buong 30 days. Pwedeng ganun eh. Kaya Airbnb is also a good way to earn through real estate. Now, just a quick recap. Ano ba na-cover na natin for this video? So, what can happen if you don't prepare? Again, example ko yung bahay namin. We did not prepare properly and we ended up with a very bad investment. You can avoid that. Just prepare. Okay? How about yung reasons for you to invest in real estate? We covered that from it being a very basic need and the inherent advantage of they're not making more real estate, so the demand is there, but with the population increasing, obviously tataas ang value. And how about the advantages over other types of assets like paper assets like leverage, you have control, and it's not that risky. Of course, talo lang siya sa liquidity. Okay? And most importantly, pwede siyang income replacement if you have more real estate. Okay? And yun, na-cover ko rin yung how to make money in real estate from flipping to rentals and all the other derivatives. Now, the question is, baka excited ka na. Can you proceed and buy your first home? Not yet. Okay? So, there are still a lot of things you need to do before you can invest in real estate. And that will be up next. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it in the comment section below this video. And I promise I will read all your comments and questions. I will answer as much as I can. So, thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.